Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I thought I'd start today's video with a few updates here in the plant room, and then we're going to be moving outside to start some repotting for this spring. It is a beautiful sunny day today, although it's very cold outside. We had a low of minus 18 degrees Celsius last night, and there's still some cool days coming. Winter is not over yet here in Canada. So let's start down here. Here's my coffee trees. They are growing really well, doing super. So that's good to see. I can repot those in a nice pot eventually too. Here's one of my Christmas cactus cuttings. So I recently pruned it back, and you can see on the tip of the cutting there, there's all kinds of new growth coming out. So that's exciting. My saberleaf ficus here. Let's see. You can see the new green shoot at the top here. Down here, there's more. So it's leafing out all over now. So that's good. That will be out into leaf very soon. Down here is my crown of thorns. And it too is leafing out all over. There's new leaves all over the growing tips and back budding, so that's exciting. My fiddle leaf fig here, or my Ficus lyrata, when I pruned it back in size, this was my leader that was growing. You can see it right there. And I pruned it fairly close to that leader, and I thought, I wonder if I got too close. It'd be a shame if I made this cut too close to my leader and this died back, but it didn't. I was successful with my cut, and you can see I have two new leaves up top on the leader, and there's more growing, so that's pretty exciting that the fiddle leaf fig is doing well. All the Portulicary afras that were sent to me, the fancy varieties, are doing well. Here's one of the small leaf ones. This is the green one with the extra small leaves. Over here, I think it's hard to get in there. Let me come over here. You can see them in the sun over there. There's the variegated ones, and then the rest are all cork park Portulicary afras. So that's pretty cool indeed. Over here, remember I started that really small rubber tree? I started, there was, I think, 2 in the pot, and maybe I planted a cutting, I'm not sure anymore. But it is growing. If we look in here, yeah, it looks like the cutting maybe didn't make it, but the others two are doing really well. They're budding out and doing super. So that's exciting. My goal is to see how small I can keep the leaves on these Ficus elasticas or rubber trees. That'll be exciting. My 2 little leaf ficus, right here, you can see all the new growth coming out on that. That's pretty exciting. Lots of that. Over here is my Fukian tea. And it stayed dormant pretty well since I got it because it's quite cool in the plant room here. But now I see there's new growth coming out on it. There's some light little shoots coming out on the tips. So that's good to see that it's starting to grow. That short stubby jade continues to grow. I'll show you a close-up of that. There it is there. So you can see all the new shoots coming out on that. So that's kind of exciting. My tiger bark ficus here, the one that kind of looked like an elephant's trunk, it has all kinds of new growth on it. You can see it up there. Lots of new branches, even on the trunk on some of the older wood. So I'll have lots to prune back to make the tree even more compact and more beautiful in the future. So that's good to see. My Brazilian rain tree here, it's waiting for good weather. There's all kinds of buds all over it, and some of them have come out. You can see some of the older leaves are yellow, turning yellow and falling off. But some of the new buds have come out already, but it hasn't exploded in growth. I can see lots of dormant buds, like there's a big one there. That's just waiting for the right conditions, for Brazilian type weather. That's what they need. And they'll come out of dormancy and just grow like crazy over the summer. So that'll be exciting to see. My Sarissa over here is doing really well. I brought it up from the cold basement. It's warmed up and now it's starting to grow like crazy. There's a few branches that they're still green. They have buds coming out of them, but they're a little slow to leaf out. You can see one here. And sometimes they don't leaf out. Sometimes you gotta cut them back to, you know, green foliage. Sometimes you kind of get some dead tips on them. It's just, you know, that happens with any tree. You get really vigorous branches and some that aren't quite so vigorous. You can see here, there's a shoot just bursting with energy sticking out here. There's a couple more here, really vigorous ones. And the rest are pretty subdued. But it's growing really well, looks nice and healthy, so that's good to see. In a previous video, I showed you the Portulacarry Afra, the one I really severely cut back hard. And I scored the back of it, so let's have a look at that in some better light here. So you can see it there. That's what the marks did on it. And I'm very pleased with the results. I think it's a grand technique to use on the trees. Yeah, I'm very happy. I'm going to continue to do that all the way around the tree. Give it some nice character up front. And it's just starting to grow nicely now. With the extra light we're getting, you know, the days are getting longer. The sun's at a nice angle coming in this room. You can see it's in the sun right now. Yeah, with this nice sunshine there, it's starting to grow with a bit more vigor. And again, the room's warming up a bit in here as the outside temperature warms up. So things are growing better in the plant room now. What else is new? I've got a lot of good growth on my rubber trees back here. You can see all the growing tips coming out on them. So that's exciting in my forest. The acacias are all doing well. The guava tree here, it's unbelievable how much it's grown. It's doing really well. So that's good to see. I think that's about all that's new. I've got my lemon tree up here, keeping it warm, and then when the sun starts shining down here on the floor, I put it down there to get some sunshine. My Schefflera is down here. I keep that well misted. So everything seems to be doing quite well in the plant room. I'm just waiting for spring so I can get them outside in the greenhouse. And I think they're going to really grow well this year. Especially with that new glass greenhouse, I can get them out extra early in spring. Keep it heated. Give them a head start on the growing season. I'll just do a little misting in the room here before I head outside to do some repotting work. So just start misting everything to keep it nice and humid in the room. Make sure nothing dries out today. It's easy to have trees dry out when you get full sun on them. Because the sun is just starting to hit the room now. It has to get around those trees that are outside. And once it clears that, it gets, you know, pretty well full sun for maybe 2 to 3 hours. And then it goes back behind some more trees. So, you know, it's not perfect, but it's what I have, the best I have. Well, here I am outside now, heading out to the greenhouse for the first repotting of a hardy tree for spring. It is now 3 days after I originally started this video. My YouTube account was hacked into and turned into a Bitcoin scam.
So in the last couple of days, I've been working with the YouTube recovery team, getting my channel back. So it looks like finally everything's slowly getting back to normal. So I'm going to continue on with the video today. I'm going to be working on my nightshade vine today. It is just a typical weed that you see in the backyard. It's a vine that kind of climbs up fences. And I decided to try it as a bonsai. I dug up this small clipping from the backyard, and I've been pruning it over the last couple of years. And I think it's, looking quite tree-like. So I have high hopes for this species as a bonsai, even though it's a very unusual species. So I want to repot it today, and I want to repot it into a pot that will hopefully match the tree when the berries are out. So it gets little kind of flowers on it, and then the flowers turn to berries, which start off green, and then the berries slowly turn to sort of a orangey color, and then finally a deep red. I want to make those berries stand out as much as possible, so I'm going to use opposite colors in the pot that goes underneath the bonsai. If the berries are an orange color, the opposite of orange is blue. And if they're turning more of a red color, the opposite of red is green. So I'm thinking a pot with blues and greens in it. Luckily, I do have a pot with those colors in it, greens and blues. This pot was handmade by David from the Toronto Bonsai Society. It is a very beautiful pot. The glaze on it, he described it to me to look like the Northern Lights, and it does look like that. It's just absolutely beautiful. Yeah. Just glows like the Northern Lights. And you can see it's got his trademark feet on the pot, which is an ox head. Let's come in for a close-up of that. There's a look at the ox head feet on the pot. Really cool. Here's a look at the new pot versus the old pot. So the old pot is just a plastic pot that I got at the thrift store. It's an interesting pot, and I'll keep it for other trees. But the new pot, I think, will suit the tree much, much more. It's a little bit smaller, which will be also nice. Here's more of a front view of the two pots, and you can see the new pot has much less mass than the old pot. The old pot looks too big for the tree. I think the new pot will look just perfect. And don't forget, this nightshade vine is going to grow this summer quite a bit too. So yeah, I think it'll be the perfect pot for this bonsai. Here's a close-up of the nightshade vine, and you can see the leaves are just starting to come out. Most of the buds are just kind of swelling, but it's ready to come out into leaf fairly soon. And that happens a lot with these really hardy weeds, is that as soon as the snow melts, they get some sunlight and the buds start swelling right away. They kind of get the maximum length of the growing season by leafing out very early when it's still really cold and staying in leaf right till fall. When I was looking at this tree over the winter, I was worried about dieback because some of the branches seem to be a little darker of a color. But everything is leafing out. All the buds are swelling on all the branches, so I don't think I lost any branches at all, which is really awesome. I was worried some vines tend to just like to grow one leader and they don't branch out easily. But this nightshade vine seems to be branching out well and keeping all these branches alive. So that's good. That makes it a good species for bonsai. Now I'm going to start by getting the tree out of the pot. I can see some weeds growing in here. I've got a bit of liverwort and some Irish moss. All right, let me see how loose it is. I don't expect it to be really pot bound because I have repotted this a couple of times. Can probably push up on some drainage holes in the bottom too. There we go. It's coming out. There it goes. So there's that pot. A very interesting pot. I'll keep that, use it for something else. Here's a look at the root system. It's looking really healthy. You can see all the white tips growing on it. It's definitely not pot bound. There's lots of room for roots to grow in here. So I'll begin raking out the old soil. So here I go. I'll start at the center of the tree and comb outwards. This decorative top layer is just fine aquarium gravel, and I use that to kind of try this liverwort, to try and prevent the liverwort from spreading. Kind of keeping a dry layer on top, and it worked quite well, I think. I got some liverwort near the base of the tree. I have a bit of this Scotch moss in here. Pull that out. There's another tuft over here. You can see the long roots on it. Very invasive. And the roots on that Scotch moss grow so thick and matted that it's hard to water the tree. That's why I don't like it in bonsai. So it looks like I have a really good mat of roots in here, like really good. I'm amazed. The whole root mass here is just all fine roots, it looks like. Now there will be some thicker ones, but there's a lot of good fine roots in here. So this is an example of a bonsai that you just get for free. It was just collected in the backyard. The pot was, well, I think it was maybe $1, maybe $2. And you know, from a weed in the backyard and a $1 pot, you can make a really attractive looking bonsai. Bonsai doesn't have to be expensive. It can be. You can spend as much as you want on pots and tools and trees and stands and everything, but if you want to keep the hobby inexpensive, it is possible. Now the day will come, you know, if you ever want to show your trees in a show, that you will need a higher quality pot than a plastic pot, but you know, hopefully by the time your tree's ready for a show, you'll have set aside a little money to buy a pot for it. So there's lots of good roots in here. I can see, you know, the start of a good radial root base. So what I'm doing now, I'm raking out all those crossing roots, which, you know, allows for more water and oxygen to get into your root base. If you get too dense a mat of roots, it becomes difficult to water the tree and keep the tree healthy. So thinning out the root base like this, by combing out all those cross-matted roots, really improves the health of your tree. It keeps it healthy, that's for sure. You know, all those spaces will fill in again with more roots, but if you comb them out with each potting, you know, you'll get a beautiful set of radial roots eventually, and the tree will just look fantastic. Root work is one of those things that builds up over the years. You know, your first time you do root work, the tree doesn't look spectacular, your root base or anything. And then, you know, each time you work on the roots, sort them out, it gets better and better looking. And then by the time the tree gets really old, you have this spectacular root system on it that just, you know, well, it's the result of all that work over many, many years. It builds up and you end up with something really, really outstanding. That's the goal. Now I've got my watering can here. I can do a little washing just to kind of help me sort these roots out. So this Nightshade Bonsai, it just started out as an experiment. I saw it growing in the yard and I thought, well, let's try it as a bonsai. And when you do that, you might get some species that you find are very suitable and other ones that just a waste of time. But when you do find one, and I hope this is one, that becomes really spectacular, then it makes all that experimentation worth it, you know. For every 5 that fail, if you get 1 success, well, that's pretty good to get that success. So yeah, don't be afraid to try strange species as bonsai. trying, applying bonsai techniques to succulents and weeds and things that you don't normally see. Especially, things that have interesting features, like this one has these fantastic berries in autumn, and they get flowers, and they're vigorous growers and hardy. So, it has a lot of features going for it, which make it worthwhile to try as a bonsai. So the top of the root base is looking pretty good here. I'm going to get my drainage screen out now, and I don't know if I used a one piece in here or just some little ones. If I used a one-piece screen, that may not be so good. Looks like I may have. This reminds me of my Sarissa, how the roots grew through the drainage screen and have been growing in the bottom of the pot. So I have a lot of trimming to do here, which I can do. Let me get my scissors, and we'll just start trimming away some of these heavy roots on the bottom. You can see the roots are nice and healthy. And it's funny, what we call a weed. Somewhere else in the world, they may not consider it a weed. I mean, I grow a lot of plants, and people from Africa say, oh, those are weeds in our area. Can't stand them. There's too many of them. Yeah, so one person's weed is another person's treasure. Okay. So that's got rid of the drainage screens. I'm going to sort out this root base a little more, some more combing, so I'll just move all this soil aside here. Those roots look really cool. They kind of twist naturally. Some root systems, the roots shoot out absolutely straight, but these have really kind of cool curvy roots. So I will comb out the bottom of the root base now. Now I wish I had a little tub of water to swish it around in. I'll see if I can get one. I've got a bucket of water here that I can wash the root system in. So I'll just swish it around. Work kind of that old soil out. All right, I think I can start the root pruning now. I'm going to start the root pruning on the bottom. There's quite a few roots that are kind of growing down, so I'm going to trim those back. So here's one there. Get rid of that. Just trying to find the origin of this root. I think that's already broken off. I think it's just sitting in there. Yep. There's one here. It grows out, kind of spirals down, and then grows back in towards the root base. So I'm going to prune that off shorter to here at least. Like that. Now, what else do we have growing? There's some more growing down here. I'll prune those off short. A couple here. I want to get a nice flat root base on the bottom. Here's another one that it grows out radially, hits the edge of the pot, and then curls back in towards the center of the tree. So I'll take it off here. Like that. Pruning off some of these downward facing roots. Pruning them back short. I'm not pruning them off. They will regrow. There's the base of the roots. I'll just give that a wash quick. All right, that looks better. Just kind of combing out these roots in the bottom. Trying to get rid of some of these crossing ones.
There's another one here I could prune off. It's kind of growing from the center of the root base. Another one here that's kind of crossing. This one could be shortened. I'm just going to prune this stub off here shorter, like that. This one root sticks down quite a bit here too. I don't think I want that, so I'm going to prune that one off shorter too. It allows you someday, you know, if you want to get it in a really shallow pot, you can. Okay, I think that's good for the bottom of the root base. Let's start on the top now. So you can see the roots. This is actual roots here. They've kind of fused together in a plane or a plate. You see that a lot on Japanese maples. And you get all kinds of suckers trying to grow up from this, but I keep pruning them off. A little bit of liverwort there I'm getting rid of. Okay, let's start pruning the roots now. So I've got one that comes out here, and it gets thicker and thicker as it goes out. So I'm going to prune that back to here, like that. There's a long one here I'll prune back. A couple here. The rest are looking fairly good. I will prune around the edges just to equalize them all. A peripheral prune. That way if one root is getting too vigorous, it gets pruned off a little harder than the smaller ones developing. Kind of creates a balanced root base. That one's too long. Going a strange direction. Some sticking up here I got to prune back. Keep my, my roots flowing from the trunk down into the soil as the best I can. Okay, I think that's good. I think I'm ready to plant the tree. A lot of these roots can be kind of combed out to get them, the direction quite nice in the soil. Like that. But I think everything's looking good with the root base. Time to plant the tree.
I'm going to pick the front of the tree now. So I think it was definitely this side. And I think right about here, looking in right here, you can see all the branch structure nicely. Okay. And then I got to find the front of the pot too. So the tree leans this way. And I noticed on this pot that the edge is larger here than on this side. It kind of tapers a bit, which is nice. So I'm thinking, if this is the front of the tree, I would think on a slanting tree like this, it's important to show the roots on the opposite side of the slant, so it looks like the tree is firmly attached to the soil, that it's not going to tip over. So I think I would want the slope side of the pot like this on that side, which would expose these roots a little more. Definitely. And then push the tree somewhere about here in the pot, just slightly off center. I think that looks good. So that's the plan. This will be the front of the pot, the front of the tree. So I'll get my drainage screens in here and get a base layer of soil. This pot was made, David J., February 8th of the year 2020. Pandemic pot. Pretty cool. Okay, so let me get some screens cut. And the tree will be sitting about here, so I'll kind of mound it up there a bit. A little more. And now I'll plant the tree. I'll position it in the pot, and then I'll rake the roots out. So I'm thinking I want the soil line to come up just kind of up to about here. Maybe a little deeper. Maybe over a little bit. So it's just off center. That's looking good. I think that's looking quite nice. I'm going to rake the roots out. Make sure I've got them all untangled. Okay, that's all looking good. I'm going to push the tree slightly to the back of the pot. Give a little more landscape room at the front. And I think that's looking good. Let's have a look from the front view. Just double check that the tree is in the right position in the pot. Here's a look at the tree in the pot now. I'm wondering if I need to move it a little more on center. At the moment it looks a little too biased to the left-hand side. I'm going to move it a bit. That looks more balanced there. I'm wondering if I could even go a little further. I think that looks even more balanced. Yeah, I'm liking that. Even though, you know, basically the trunk is pretty well starting, well, maybe not quite on dead center, but close to it. I still think it looks quite balanced with the canopy kind of over to the left-hand side. The height looks right in the pot too. All right, I'm going to start adding some soil in. So here I go. I'll do a final rake out, just in case I've disturbed some of those roots. I think it's all looking pretty good though. Yeah, like that. And I'm going to start adding some soil now. Using the new soil scoop from Will, which is just excellent. I like it. You really pour it precisionally. It's like using a spoon, except you have lots of capacity. Okay, now I'm going to lift the tree just a little bit in the pot, just so that instead of the roots being flat, they're kind of tapering down in the pot a bit. I always try and do that. It gives you a better root system. So you just kind of lift up as you're getting that soil worked into the roots. Well, you don't get quite as flat a root system, the surface roots. They kind of go into the soil on a bit more of an angle. Okay, I'm going to have another look from the front just to make sure everything's still looking good. Yes, I'm still liking that. Liking it a lot. I'm not sure what David will think of me planting a weed in his pot, but I think when you see this with its berries all orange and red and the blue pot, I think it's going to look quite nice. I mentioned in another video I wasn't sure how long these nightshade vines can live, and thankfully the viewers have sent me all kinds of messages that they've had ones that are almost 20 years old. Not as a bonsai, but growing in their, you know, in the ground. So I think they have quite a long lifespan. I don't think it's a short-lived weed. Okay, now tamp this down a bit. Now I got a few pine chunks or reptile bark, whatever it is, that are a little big. I'm going to pick those out. At least, you know, away from the surface here. There's also a few chunks of perlite that are quite big. I can break them in half. I screened out all the fine stuff in the soil, but I didn't screen out the large particles. Okay, let's have a final look before I water the tree. I think it's looking quite nice. I'll get out the watering can and give it a water. That's flowing out the bottom of the pot now really nicely. I'll give it a good watering to wash all the dust out of the soil. Get all those chunks of bark all soaked and settle it in. I'll spin the tree around so you can see it from all angles. So here's the front. Coming around to the right-hand side. Coming around to the back of the tree. Coming around to the left-hand side. And back to the front. Let's fly in now, and I can show you the structure from, a few higher angles, looking down at the tree. So I think it's developing quite well. Getting some nice character to it. The trunk is thickening up and getting taper to it. You can see the leaves coming out on it there. Amazing. And now it has an awesome pot. So that's cool. I'm going to place some stones on top of the soil surface just to hold the tree in place until the roots get established in the pot. All right, I've got 2 stones. I got them from outside and I let them warm up for a bit. So I think I'm going to put the heaviest one over here. Like that. And I'll put the other one kind of right here. Sort of framing the tree. There. Nice and solid in the pot now. I'll give it a little more water. Make sure all those wood chips are kind of getting soaked with water. Miss the top of the tree. It's going to be a while before springtime hits all the trees outdoors, but here in the greenhouse in this microclimate, it's definitely springtime. Everything is starting to gain energy and the buds are swelling and even some of the buds are coming out now. So I'm going to kind of treat this as a warm greenhouse now, not letting it go below freezing, and everything should do quite well in here until I can put the trees outside in the better weather. I really enjoyed repotting my nightshade vine. It made me feel like it was spring outside. And that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.